notice when I said it. I don't think it's
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
How are you?
We haven't.
I won't make it. Okay.
Well,
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Hello.
Congressman Neguse, John Neguse. Okay. Good to see you. How are you? Enjoying it? Having fun? Yeah, no. How are you? Representative? Oh, good to see you, of course. Yeah, of course. Good to see you. Are you coming with us on the rest of our stuff?
Are we ready? Are we ready?
I think we're ready to go.
Okay. Am I on for everybody?
we got you.
Okay. Well, I'm winging it, so thank you everybody for coming today. It's my pleasure to recognize Senator Michael Bennet, Representative Joe Neguse, House Speaker Julie McCluskey, State Senator Catherine. It's very interesting, right? We have the boat ramp that my family and I come down. It has little waves on it because we are a community that has two rivers running through it, and the base of it is Colorado River. The fly fishing, the rafting, and not only that, this is the river for 40 million people in the American West. So the idea of our administration allowing against everything they've said, allowing carbon to be extracted, contributing up to 1% of our carbon output. It's 2 miles long with highly flammable liquids coming through this canyon. This canyon is a very fragile place. We've had the Grizzly Creek fire. We've had climate change induced floods, rock slides that shut down I-70 at the time for 2 weeks at a time. This winter, seemingly every day we've had I-70 shut down because of weather-related accidents. So to say that this canyon is anything but an incredible, fragile place, to say that this river is anything but in crisis in the American West, is ignoring the realities. So when we talk about what it means to this community, what this means to the state, the region, Tennessee Pass, Eagle.
Thanks for having me. Wonderful to be here today with the commissioner, with the state legislators who are here, with the mayor. He's right about how fragile this, and with Congressman Neguse, I'll come back to my partner in all this. But the mayor is right to talk about this beautiful canyon is fragile. The stretch of river is fragile. He knows that as well as anybody else because of what the community has had to contend with, from road closures to fires to mudslides to just a changing climate and the effect that has had on this stretch of river, this stretch of road, and in this beautiful canyon. And it's been fragile, but that fragility has been met by the resilience of the people in this part of our state and on the western slope of Colorado, who have met every single challenge with the kind of strength that we would always expect, and which is always inspiring. And in my mind, that's why we're here today, because the last thing they need is to have an additional burden placed on them when they are doing everything they can to make this part of our world and this part of our state as resilient as possible. In the wake of the train derailment in East Palestine, Colorado, and other recent ones in West Virginia and Washington and Minnesota, I guess Palestine is what I meant to say. We know that these accidents have made something abundantly clear, which is that derailments in this country are shockingly common, more than 1,000 per year on average. Moving hazardous materials by rail can be dangerous for the communities and the environments that they pass through, and that's why we're here today, to oppose the oil trains from the Uinta Basin Railway project coming through Colorado. If completed, the project would send, as the mayor said, 5 2-mile-long trains full of waxy crude oil across our state every single day. 4.6 billion gallons per year. It would travel over 100 the headwaters of the Colorado River, the most geographically important part of our state, the lifeblood of the American West itself. The water supply, as the mayor said, for nearly 40 million Americans, 30 tribal nation, millions of acres of agricultural land that's already struggling with the drought that we're experiencing. I just drove through here Monday, I guess it was. I drove Senator Hickenlooper from Grand Junction to Denver because the weather going west kept us from our trip down the Colorado. We were going to go all the way to California to call attention to the 1,200-year drought. And coming back that evening, we were just, it was obvious when you look around how catastrophic it would be to risk this canyon to contaminated water with cancer-causing chemicals, the risk of sparking wildfires, shutting down I-70, we've already seen that because of the fires and the mudslides. And this doesn't just harm this river, it doesn't just harm this basin, although that should be enough, but it puts the Front Range at risk as well by dramatically increasing the amount of hazardous materials traveling through Denver. When the federal government reviewed this project, it's important to understand they didn't properly assess the risks to Colorado. In fact, the EPA only looked at the risk to Utah, not the risk to Colorado, and that's why we've been pushing the Biden administration. Congressman Neguse and I have been pushing the administration for almost a year to stop this project until they conduct additional comprehensive review that fully considers the environmental risks to Colorado. We've urged the Council on Environmental Quality, the Department of Agriculture, the Department of Transportation. Secretary Buttigieg was right here and came to see the importance of this stretch of road. I can't wait to go back to remind him of what it's like on the banks of this river and to remind him why the U.S. Department of Transportation doesn't need to be financing a project like this, the Environmental Protection Agency. So we're all here today to say the oil trains from Uinta Basin are not welcome in Colorado. We don't need another disaster in Colorado to know this is a bad idea for our state, for our environment, and for our economy. And with that, I want to turn it over to my colleague, Joe Neguse. There isn't a harder working member in Congress than Joe Neguse. There isn't anybody who's gotten better results for our state and for his district than Joe. The fact that he's been in a leadership position in the House of Representatives has been critical to moving initiatives like Camp Hale and others forward. And I'm excited as a Coloradan for the newly expanded, I know we're not strictly speaking in his district today, but we might as well be because we're just 12 miles away. I'm excited about the fact that his new district is covering parts of the western slope, because that means more of our state is going to benefit from his outstanding representation. With that, I'll turn it over to Congressman.
Well, first and foremost, my gratitude to my senator, our state's senior senator, Senator Bennet, who has been such an incredible leader and insightful leader on all issues impacting the Rocky Mountain West. He is literally the go-to in the United States Senate and in the United States Congress, in the halls of Washington, D.C., on any issue that impacts the West, whether it's drought, whether it's wildfire resiliency and mitigation, whether it's public lands preservation. He is the go-to. He's the person that the president calls. He's the person that members of the House like myself call when we're looking for a partner on thoughtful legislation that'll impact the people of Colorado and the people of the Rocky Mountain West. So I say to the senator, thank you for being a leader in particular on this issue and on galvanizing, I think, folks around opposing this project, given the real consequences that it could pose, not just for folks here in Garfield County, but for people across Colorado and indeed people across the Basin states, both upper and lower. As the senator said, I represent Colorado's 2nd congressional district. We're about 12 miles due west of the district's boundaries. I spent the last couple of days traveling, visiting with folks in Grand County and Jackson County and Routt County, and as I was telling the senator, had the privilege of starting our journey really near the headwaters of the Colorado up in Grand, and just about an hour ago traced the Colorado down from Kremling, of course, past State Bridge and down here into Eagle and ultimately Garfield. And Max and I, as we were driving down, just kind of marveling, looking at the river, reflecting on the impact that this incredible waterway has on 40 million people across the West. And from my vantage point, you don't need to be a rocket scientist to understand that this project, which as the senator said, would enable 4.6 billion gallons of oil to travel adjacent to this river, is not a smart idea. Our senator, and you'll have to fact check him on it, but Senator Roberts, our state senator, says that this barrel includes what, about 55 gallons of oil, right? Imagine the degradation of this river. Imagine the ecosystems impacted. Imagine the people, the communities impacted if a disaster were to occur, like we saw in eastern Ohio, as Senator Bennet articulated. There are real risks posed by this project, and it's why Senator Bennet and I have been pushing every federal agency that will listen to pause, to step back and recognize that this is not in the best interests of Coloradans, it's not in the best interests of Westerners, and it's certainly not in the best interest of our country. So we are hopeful that as we continue to offer this clarion call against the project's development, that we will ultimately convince one of these agencies to listen. And a big reason why will be because of the local support that we have gotten from incredibly talented state legislators, the Speaker of the House, Senator Roberts, our newest representative from Garfield County, who I know is going to address you all as well. A united front, all saying no to this dangerous project, and I have every expectation that we'll be able to succeed in stopping it. So I thank you for being here, and with that, I'll turn it back to Senator Bennet. Or I'll turn it to the Speaker of the House, Speaker McCluskey from a great Summit County.
Let me start by saying how grateful I am to be here today under a beautiful blue Colorado sky next to the river and talking about something that is deep in all of our hearts, protecting the Colorado way of life. I am so indebted to Senator Bennet and Congressman Neguse for their leadership on protecting what we value most. I am so proud to have been a part of a bipartisan, Republicans and Democrats alike, who came together and have stood against the invasion of this project in our beautiful state in a way that truly threatens our waterways and our livelihood. You know, these trains pass right here alongside the headwaters of the Colorado River and its tributaries. This water and tourism industries. We've seen far too many derailments recently to know that it is possible, that impacting our beautiful state is merely a train ride away. The federal officials who have expressed their concerns today are sharing with all of you and with our state and the people we represent a call to action to make sure that the potential consequences of 10 trains a day, 2 miles long, transporting dangerous products through our most beautiful Colorado cannot happen, and it cannot happen on our watch. The proposal for this train, the proposal for this transport is not something we support. And while I join my colleagues from the state legislature in sharing that concern, I know that I represent thousands of Coloradans who are deeply committed to protecting our waterways, our environment, our wildlife, and join us in this call to action to make sure that this does not happen, not on our watch. Thank you all for being here today. Thank you for joining us in this moment. And I want to call up my exceptional ally in all things water, Senator Dylan Roberts.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Thank you, Senator Bennet, Congressman Neguse. Thank you, everybody, for being here. Good afternoon. I'm Dylan Roberts. I'm the state senator for Senate District 8, which includes 10 counties in the central and northwest part of our state and includes this beautiful Glenwood Canyon and the Colorado River that runs through it. I represent thousands of people that live in the headwaters of the Colorado River and rely on that river for their livelihoods, their local economy, and the beautiful environment that makes all of us love to live here. I'm also the chair of the Senate Natural Resources Committee and the chair of the Bipartisan and Bicameral Water Resources Committee at the state legislature, and bring a bipartisan call of opposition to this proposed project from the state legislature. Many of us, Representative Velasco, Speaker McCluskey, who are here today, but many more of our colleagues, any authorization of the project until more analysis can be done. This is a water issue, but this is also about our livelihoods. The dangers to this river, if that amount of oil comes through right next to it on a rail line that is could cause an accident, would be catastrophic to the Colorado River. And we heard from our federal representatives that this river serves 40 million people in our country. To think that we would do anything to endanger the river even more as we are going through an historic and dangerous drought doesn't make any common sense to me, and I don't think to many people in Colorado. We are in favor of domestic energy production, I want to note, but you're supposed to do that in the right way. My personal objection to this is the legislature, as I said, leaders throughout the region of both parties and of everyday citizens who love our environment and know of the importance of this river to our economy. The Colorado River is endangered, and we are working very hard at the state level, and our colleagues at the federal level are working very hard to find solutions to the major crisis that faces us on the Colorado River. And this project is the last thing that we could ever need as we try to address those challenges. So I am here to urgently call on the Biden administration to please pause any authorization of this project, make sure that we're doing everything we can to protect our precious water in the West. With that, I would like to call up my esteemed and excellent colleague who represents this beautiful place, Representative Elizabeth Velasco.
Thank you so much. I am proud today to stand here with our federal delegation, with our state representatives, our state speaker, and our local elected officials to stand against this oil train and against this project. I have worked as a public information officer responding to the Grizzly Creek fire. I know what it is to have the road closed for over 2 weeks in a community. We have a 5-hour detour to go north or south, how that affected our economy, how that affects our human rights, like access to clean water and clean air, and how it pauses the tourism all the way down to our communities south, including Pitkin and Aspen. And our community, the district that I represent, is 60% public lands. So we know that public lands are part of our heritage, our way of life, and we must do everything in our hands to protect it, to protect the pristine, clean water, clean air, and environment for our future generations and for us and our families and our work, but also because we have the train tracks next to homes, next to businesses, next to communities. So this could be all in the administration to pause and stop this for communities. And I am glad to introduce Eagle County Commissioner Kathy Chandler Henry.
Congressman Neguse, for all your leadership on our behalf. And thanks as well to our State Senator Dylan Roberts, Speaker McCluskey, and Representative